Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Mrren? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
Why?
It's my sleazy voice.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because we're going to watch a very sleazy movie.
Yeah.
You know, we just watched Hard Bodies. And so I wasn't going to run back to the sleaze well just this quickly. But then a friend called us up and presented us with an opportunity.
Yep.
He said, the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, the one that's famous from being in the Blob and has Blobfest every year,
Yeah.
they are showing Caligula on screen.
That filthy movie, he called it.
That filthy movie, which by all accounts it is,
Yeah.
right? And I said to myself, now, first of all, Caligula is like, what, 79?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine.
That counts.
That counts. It's a film that I only know by its reputation. I've never seen any of it. I know a few people who are in it, or I think are in it, and I know who made it, and I am certainly familiar with Roman history. So I can't wait to see this. This is going to be not good from all accounts, but it'll at least be something to talk about. So here's the thing. You know, in 1976, the BBC put out their adaptation of Robert Graves' book, I Claudius and Claudius the God, and they called it I Claudius. And it aired in the United States on PBS, and it was a huge hit. And the thing about I Claudius is, one, it's extremely well made. It has an incredible cast. I mean, you know, you've got Brian Blessed, you've got, obviously, Derek Jacobi as the title character, you've got John Hurt as Caligula himself, Sean Phillips as Lydia.
Amazing.
Just one of the most amazing casts ever assembled on television. Really wonderful camera work in that film, TV show, I mean, called... I just watched a video on YouTube, I guess, about it, about the way they do blocking. Like it's
yeah.
It's
You shared that with me.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It's great. It's extremely well made show, and extremely well written, and it's very smart. And yes, does it look like an episode of Doctor Who? Fine, but that's part of the charm, right? The sets wobble. It's it's one reason why my mother wouldn't watch it. But the thing about I Claudius is, it's all those things. It's also got a nice little bit of smut, right? You have the occasional butt shot. You have an orgy. You have
it's English hard bodies.
Yes, it very much is. And like it was scandalous for PBS to put this on, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because you had
It's scandalous for your priest to show it to you.
Okay, look. That did happen. We watched it in my Latin class. And look, you know, for a good chunk of it, you know, it's fine. And then you get into the reign of Caligula and things do kind of go haywire. And all of a sudden the priest is just like, oh, wait. He tries to block what happens on the screen. And he actually like taped something up and the tape fell like right as Drusilla's butt is on the screen. And he's just like, all right, well, look, it's not like you people don't know what this is. And oddly enough, it was kind of a conversation, not unlike that scene in The Holdovers when Paul Giamatti's teacher, you know, character is like, you know, every kid thinks that they've invented sex and debauchery, but like, look, it was very funny watching The Holdovers and just being like, I've actually been in this situation. So yes, I watched it in Catholic school, and look, I know what you're thinking. As far as no, this is not actually scandalous. But the thing about I Claudius is they can get away with it because it's extremely good.
Yeah.
So you make that, right? And you see how everybody's just like, yes, this is high art, but also it's real smutty, right? And Bob Guccione says, aha!
I could do one of those things.
So, much like Robert Graves made an adaptation of Suetonius's Lives of the 12 Caesars and turned it into I Claudius, Bob Guccione, I don't know who he got as a screenwriter, but they went back to, I guess, Suetonius, or a comic book version of Suetonius, I guess, or not even a comic book version, an underground comics version. They took the story of Caligula, right? That's my impression. Is they took the story of Caligula And they're like, okay, we're going to do the same thing they did in I Claudius, but we're actually going to show the sex.
Yeah.
Right? Now, this is all coming about in the era of kind of towards the end of porno chic. And we brought this up when we did Hard Bodies, that you had this era in the 70s where you were making films that were pornographic, but they wanted it to also be art, right? And Boogie Nights is kind of making fun of this, right?
Yeah.
While also acknowledging, like, these people, they had ambitions, but, reach, grasp, they don't match up. And I have the feeling that's what we're getting here. But the irony is the cast of this, right? Because you have Malcolm McDowell, compelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's in interesting films, whether you're talking about A Clockwork Orange or Time After Time, or I don't know. I kind of like that he was a Star Trek villain, but that's me. I don't know that Generations is great, but I kind of like it.
He was okay in it.
He's fine in it.
Yeah.
Not only them, but you also have like Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
Peter O'Toole has an extremely uneven filmography. I understand.
Like a proper English actor.
Exactly. Look, acting's a job,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes your job is a little sleazy. Like Peter O'Toole. I mean, look, Lawrence of Arabia, Beckett, The Lion in Winter, right? These are all classics. I rather like, The Ruling Class. It's a little overlong. Could use some editing, but that's a good. He gives an incredible performance in The Ruling Class.
My favorite year.
My favorite year. Oh my God, I love My Favorite Year. He's fantastic in that.
Yeah.
Look, Ratatouille. He's in Ratatouille. He's great in Ratatouille. He's also does terrible movies.
You know what? He should have been in Cannonball Run.
Yeah, actually, that would have been kind of good. Well, he is in. We're gonna do it at some point. He's in Supergirl.
Oh, wow.
Supergirl.
I didn't know that.
Not a good movie.
Huh.
We will cover that at some point because I never saw all of Supergirl, but I am familiar with it. So look, the guy, he understood what a paycheck was.
Yeah.
Certainly his liver did. So I have a feeling this is a paycheck,
Okay.
and that's fine. But I'm still like, the man has gravitas, right? He was in King Ralph. Is that a good movie or a bad movie? Who's to say? Is this going to be on King Ralph level, or is this going to be? So what I know of this film is, again, look, Suetonius was a Roman historian, and he wrote a book called The Lives of the 12 Caesars, and how much can you trust it? I don't know, because it's a little bit like, 500 years later, Procopius would be writing his secret history of, the Byzantine Empire, and it'd be all like, here's all the scandals. He was copying Suetonius. Suetonius was just like, here's all the scandals. I'm not Livy, okay? I'm not Thucydides. I'm just writing smut. and that's kind of where we get our idea of how debauched the Roman early empire was, right? From all I know about this film is, it sounds like a great idea, You're going to have, like, all of the quality of an I Claudius, and then occasionally you're going to have some hardcore sex scenes. I don't know if that actually works for film. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but in the 70s it made sense, right? Because you had that whole, like, kind of opening up of what we're allowed to do with film, and people were, I don't know, more open about sex and sexuality, and, there were swingers clubs that were actually, like, well known and chic, and, like what, Plato's Retreat and stuff like that. And, this was a different era, right?
Well, I wonder, like, actors can act, but like they can't always do comedy. Maybe porn is the same thing.
I think that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see what's the Brando. Bertolucci.
Yeah.
Last
Tango
in Paris.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen that. I don't know if that worked. Maybe that's the template they're going for.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. And I mean, now knowing what I know, I don't know that I don't really want to watch it.
Right.
It's
a little
you're getting into the interesting question of, simulated sex versus actual sex on screen. And, I mean, look, everybody's seen pornography, but, trying to use that in a film, like, the whole point of film is that it's pretend, right?
Yeah.
If you shoot a guy on camera, you don't want him to actually be dead like Brandon Lee. You don't want violence to be actually violent in a film, right?
All right.
Do you want sex to actually be sex? Because here's the thing. When violence is actually violence, you're losing control, right? You've lost control of a situation. And the thing you want to do with acting or filmmaking is you don't actually want to lose control. Does the same thing happen when you have sex on screen?
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're a professional and, you're doing pornography, and that's different, because I think you can emotionally and mentally separate, right? But if you're a regular actor, especially if you come out of, like, say, the method school, are you going to lose a certain level of control, and is that going to make the art suffer? I think that's an interesting question. That's kind of a, the whole point of acting is pretend, even though you want to evoke a real response, right? But you have to have a certain amount of control. So if introducing actual sex, does that actually create a problem in terms of the art? Is that where maybe this film suffers? Maybe not even in the performances, but in the filmmaking itself. If you become so focused on the sex scenes, does everything else kind of fall apart? And my impression of the film is, yeah, that's basically what happens.
So, like, I'm thinking back. I can't really remember a lot of, like, sex type films in our podcast history.
Oh, Risky Business.
Yeah, I guess. But I feel like Hard Bodies is up there.
Oh, yeah.
As in, like, quality sex movie.
Yeah, okay. Surprisingly, yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, so, like, that's the Citizen Kane of sex movies for us.
No, wait a
right
minute.
now.
Well, right now.
In terms of just our pod, I'm like, it's very narrow focus.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of sex on screen.
No.
And not because we've avoided it, just never.
Well, we tried to get, what was it, Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah, that's really hard to come by, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And I
once bought a 2-disc DVD for like $7 at a book trader.
Oh, really?
In Philly. And I was like, I can't justify spending $7.
You don't want them to look at you when you bring it up to the counter?
No.
Nope. Yeah, I don't know how we're ever going to watch Revenge of the Nerds, but
someday.
Yeah. So instead we're doing the classy thing, and we're going to an actual theater to watch Caligula.
We're spending way more on this.
Oh, yeah.
But,
but this is because we're going to go and watch a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to go watch a train wreck.
In the very theater that was attacked by the blob.
Right.
Multiple times.
I mean, look, how could we pass up on this opportunity? This is perfect. I cannot wait.
Do you think there's a love triangle?
I think there's an orgy.
Yeah. But do you think there's, like, hurt feelings or anything like that? Or I don't know.
Do Roman emperors have feelings?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Are there dogs?
Are there dogs? Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Hard to say.
Anybody die?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like Peter O'Toole plays Tiberius, so he dies.
Does anyone's head get lifted up, do you think?
No. I don't think we're going to get anything that cool.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But look, I assume that we not only get Tiberius's death, obviously this has to end with the death of Caligula, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're getting death.
Okay.
But no beheadings. All right. Well, shall we go drive over to Phoenixville?
Yeah.
And watch this?
Let's do that.
In the city of Rome, 2,000 years ago, the Lord Tiberius bequeathed to his son Caligula. He ascended the throne, and many a head did roll. This horrid aberration that hell hath wrought Caligula.
So when our friend Bob called us up and said, do you want to see Caligula? And I thought, well, it's on our list and I like trash, so of course I want to go see this. What I didn't know, and I'm not entirely sure that he knew, was that what we were seeing was Caligula, the Ultimate Cut, which is the same film but also not the same film. It is still the film starring Malcolm McDowell and Peter O'Toole and, Helen Mrren and whatnot about Caligula. But this is different from the version that was seen in theaters in 1980 because it was, reconstructed from alternate takes using 96 hours of footage.
And other things.
Which is interesting because...
I saw AI was used for some of the background chatter.
Yeah, I guess they did some stuff because some of the audio tracks, and we'll talk about the audio differences between the films. The audio they had to clean up a bit, so I guess they used computer technology. Like, and this is the kind of thing where I actually don't mind AI when they use it for CGI of a background, because they had all of these sets, and then they just, there was one shot where it took place at night, and I'm like, how'd they get the shot with the stars? And it turns out that must have been computer generated.
Oh, I didn't know if it was a set and like backlit.
Well, I didn't know either, but I'm assuming now that I know that they, when they reconstructed the film, he cleaned it up, right? And the guy who did that, he added all these sort of elements that honestly make the film better. So when we went and saw the film, it's not what everybody saw, which is universally panned. And when we got home from the theater, we went and put on the version that everyone has seen and hates. And I gotta be honest, they're right. That version's not good.
It's not that it's not good. It's just
it's not good.
Exploitive.
No. It's bad in several ways, but we'll talk about that. So what we saw instead was a reconstruction of Gore Vidal's screenplay. When they made the film, they had one order, which was order of scenes, by which I mean which followed what Gore Vidal wrote. And so his order of events, I think it works better. It gives Caligula an actual arc of a character. Mm-hmm. And I mean, look, it's Gore Vidal. The guy knew, the man knew how to write.
It gives Helen Mrren more of a character.
Helen Mrren has more to do.
Drusilla.
The woman who plays Drusilla. Like, there's a lot more of the women in this film than is in the Bob Guccione version of Caligula. So here's the thing. What we saw is not the trash that everybody thinks of. Is it a great film? Is it a lost masterpiece? No, I wouldn't say that. But I don't think it's actually a bad movie. In fact, I think if they tightened up some of the editing of the scenes, because some scenes go on a little too long and things like that, and maybe intercut from some of the wilder takes that McDowell does in the official version, where we didn't watch all of the theatrical version, but we watched, I don't know, like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. Yeah. And if you took some of the version of that, where apparently he just has wilder, like you can see him going crazy through the film, and intercut it into this. Obviously they couldn't do that because of rights issues and people arguing about who owns what. But so that, this version of Caligula is a little more subdued. Like, his performance is a little more subdued. But other than that, this, I think, is a much better film. And I actually enjoyed it. And I think it actually looks good. And I was really surprised at how much look, it's still bloody. It still has a lot of sex scenes. But it doesn't have the hardcore sex scenes that Bob Guccione filmed on his own and threw in, right? And
to be honest, the violence isn't as in your face either.
Yeah, it's much more violent in the Guccione version.
Guccione version, there's a lot of close-ups, just close-ups. It like that kind of 70s, like zoom in.
Yeah.
On like almost every scene has a zoom in on like what's he doing, and it has like a very drive-in feel.
Again, the differences are, one, they are different takes. So when you're making a film, you'll do take one, take two, whatever. This was cobbled together from all the alternate takes. And this isn't the first time we've watched a movie that's done this. We went and saw Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush, a couple months ago. And it was silent, but what we saw is a reconstruction because Chaplin got rid of the original 1925 film. He didn't like it. He did a remake in the 40s that added sound and narration.
Which was like a common thing at the time.
It was a common thing at the time, and everybody says, yeah, this sucks. We want the original. And he's like, well, you can't have it. So in the, 20 years
he
ago,
special
maybe?
editioned us.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Clunky.
That's exactly what he did. He special editioned us. Look, that's exactly what we're going with here. Is like the version of Star Wars that you saw in the movie theater in 1977 is not what you see when you go to the movies now. And
the
I
tramp
know.
Shot first.
So alternate versions are nothing new, right?
Yeah.
We have that issue with all of the Star Wars films. We have that issue with some Chaplin stuff. It's out there. There was something else. Oh, but Superman.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
Wait, there's that one.
Superman 2. There is the Donner version, where they reconstructed an entire film with using Richard Donner stuff instead of...
I never saw that. I'm really curious what it's like.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Donner cut either. I kind of want to cover it because, like, look, I love the original Superman, and I like Superman 2, but I've never seen the alternate cut. And also, I kind of want to cover Superman 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe at some point we'll have a Superman month or something, you know. and frankly, we'll break the rules and we'll just watch the first Superman because I love that movie. That movie's great.
Maybe there's a bad cut of that. The Bob Guccione cut.
Oh no! Oh no! On the other hand, you know, young hot Christopher Reeves. I don't, you know. Anyway, yeah. So what we saw, this is not that weird, but I was surprised that this existed.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do a lot of research on Caligula, obviously. I knew I was aware of its reputation, and I was like, okay, how bad is it? Watching this, it's not bad. It's not for everyone, right? I have always put off seeing Pasolini's Sallow, okay? Because I'm just like, do I really want to put myself through that movie? It's a notorious film, a lot of violence, sexual violence, all these things. But it's intended as a commentary on fascism and the indolence of the upper classes and whatever. So it's one of those things where it's like, I admire that you exist. Do I want to watch you? But having seen Caligula now in 2 versions, I'm like, I could probably watch Sallow. It's fine. There's beheadings in this.
Yeah.
There's orgies in this. There's a really horrifying rape scene.
You know what? I talked about beheadings.
You did,
earlier, and you
yeah.
said, no, there won't be any beheadings. And no.
I was wrong.
Yeah. Although they didn't actually hold up Caligula's head, so.
That's true.
Well.
But they had other heads
Yeah.
rolling around, held up, all kinds of things. Oh, yeah, okay, so here's the thing. Did we have beheadings? Yes, we had deaths. Oh my God, we had so many deaths.
We
Of
had
course we had
dogs.
deaths. We had dogs. Did we have a love triangle?
Yeah.
Actually, a legitimate love triangle because, obviously, you have Caligula, who is in love with his own sister Drusilla, but he's also married to, what's her name? Caesona?
Caesona, yeah.
Caesona, played by Helen Mirren.
My Caesona.
Oh my God. That's worse than anything I saw in that film. So, I don't know. Like, does it count? Can we say we've seen Caligula?
Sure.
I mean, do I need to sit and watch the entirety of
No, I think we can guess. I mean, come on.
Because here's the thing. When we watched this reconstruction, what I found interesting was, yes, they used some sweetening, shall we say, computer-generated, to fix some of the dialogue, right? Because it's old film stock, and, you know, they're using alternate takes, and so who knows how good of a sound you got. But watching it, I could hear everything fine, personally. I mean,
I couldn't. I missed almost every other word, and then
Are you
so
serious?
when we watched the original version, I was like, "Oh, is that what they said? Oh, they said that."
maybe you need to see an ENT, honey.
No, I'm fine. It's the kids that are wrong.
You saw Mogwai without earplugs.
Yeah,
So, like, really, how many times have you...
we had tissue in our ears.
Oh, wow. I could understand what they were saying in the film, unlike Dennis. Yeah. So I didn't have a problem with that. In fact, I found some interesting things that they did with the sound in this film that I did not hear actually when we watched the 79, 80, whatever cut. Because it came out in 80, but it was made in 79, so it's got that kind of weird, like I keep saying the wrong year. There was, when you're on the Isle of Capri and you're walking around with Tiberius, played by Peter O'Toole,
Yeah.
they do a nice thing where there's just flies buzzing.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
low in the mix, but every so often it becomes more prominent. So you get that oral sense of decay.
Yeah.
There's another scene where Caligula and Drusilla are in bed together, and they're just kind of like hanging out, and I heard purring. And of course it turns out, oh, by the way, she has like a pet leopard cub.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Roman Empire. But the purring was loud enough that it added to the sense of how self-satisfied they are with their position. So there were neat things that they were doing with the sound. And also, I got the sense that all of the sound, all the vocals were being recorded, say, through a boom mic. Or at least the way ADR was done was cleaned up. Because when we went and watched the Guccione version, it's all ADR.
Yeah.
Everything is dubbed over. And now, yes, you said you could hear it better, and that's fine. But it makes the film look cheap.
They cut that one scene when he talks to Nerva.
Yeah.
When he's dying.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad they cut that scene in the version we saw. Because there's a scene where Nerva commits suicide and Caligula is quizzing him like, well, what's it like dying? Can you see Isis? And like he means it sincerely, but it just kind of goes on, and I don't think it really adds anything other than...
But we get more John Gielgud.
And I like John Gielgud in this film. He's very good as Nerva. But I don't know. I thought it was good the way that they recut the scene in the version we saw in the theater. Yeah, the version we saw is shorter, but again, everything feels a bit rushed, right? Granted, the version we saw in the theater is a bit more languid. Yeah. Not always to its benefit, but there are times where I think that works. They were cutting things and where they rearranged, the story. For instance, the version we saw in the theater, again, this is a reconstruction, and it opens with title credits by, Dave McKean? Yeah. Who, is a graphic artist and, illustrator. And Batman, yeah. Like
Sandman
yes.
Covers.
Very, very big in the 90s and onward. Yeah. So he did the opening titles. He designed them and all. And it's interesting because it gives you like a little bit of backstory as to who the heck Caligula was and the story of his father Germanicus and his death. And, it's all that stuff like, if you did not watch I Claudius, let me get you up to speed on what's going on here. So I thought that worked really well for if, you're not a Roman Empire weirdo like me. It gives you some grounding as to like, what are we doing here? They don't do that in the Guccione version. They just drop you into, the first thing you see on screen is just the words pagan Rome.
And then it says, Caligula says, when I die, I am a god or something. And then as he says god, then it says produced by Bob Guccione.
It's a subtle film.
Very subtle.
It's, very light hand. Yeah, I don't like the way they do the Guccione version. I really don't because
like the Guy Ritchie.
I wouldn't even insult Guy Ritchie with this, but you're right. Yeah, so the way that it opens in the version we saw, I'll call it the Gore Vidal version because it's trying to follow his original screenplay. It actually opens, so we get that little backstory, which I think is what this new producer, came up with. But then it goes right to Caligula sort of waking up in bed and going, oh my God, he's going to kill me. And he's talking about Tiberius. And it's sort of the first indication of he's paranoid, he's terrified of Tiberius. And he has good reason to be. This is the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Yeah. They're willing to put each other to death real quickly. So the fact that we already have him scared of Tiberius and in bed with his sister, and then we go to Capri.
His own sister.
His own sister,
not
yes.
Tiberius.
No. Although, honestly, in that family, who would put it past them? And then he goes to Capri. He's been summoned by Tiberius, and he's terrified. In the Guccione version, it opens with him and Drusilla just frolicking through a field pretending they're shepherds in Arcadia, and then he's off to Capri.
And the thing is, it seems like they keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like in the Guccione version. Like you don't really feel like you're on a different place.
No, it felt disjointed.
Yeah.
But not in an artistic way.
Yeah. Whereas the Gore Vidal version, it feels like he's descending into hell or something.
Yes, exactly. It feels more psychologically constructed. Yeah. Right? It's a much smarter, Gore Vidal, it's a much smarter screenplay than what Guccione cut to ribbons. Yeah. Right? There's a reason why he's like, take my name off of this. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, Gore Vidal, of course, he was a novelist, an essayist. He was a screenwriter. He wrote the screenplay for Ben-Hur, which I happen to really like Ben-Hur. It's not weird that he did a treatment for Caligula. And, I'll talk a little bit about it later, but there's an interesting politics in his version that I bet is completely lacking because we didn't sit through the entire Guccione version. But there is a really interesting politics as it goes on that you even brought up to me, and we'll talk about that. That I think is another reason worth, like, if you don't mind sex and violence, this is worth seeing at least once. The fact that, at least with the version we saw, it starts, kind of in media res, and then it kind of shows you like he's already scared, right? It's a much smarter version. They go to Capri and he meets up with Tiberius because he is the heir, and Tiberius is just like, I mean, you're my heir, but I've also got my own like flesh and blood grandson. So, you have reasons to be scared because I could get rid of you at any time, even though you're technically my heir type thing. The visit to Capri is, on the one hand, an excuse for the film to have an orgy. On the other hand, this is straight out of Suetonius. If you read Suetonius, he talks about how late into Tiberius's reign, he basically just descended into debauchery, and he hung out all day in the pool at Capri and got, off with young people. Now, look.
Satyrs, nymphs.
Satyrs and nymphs, right. Yeah. I will say, in the film, nobody looks underaged. Yeah. I appreciate that because, look, it's the 70s, and let me tell you, they could have gone in the wrong direction, and God almighty, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'll hand it to Guccione, at least for as far as we watched it. I did not see anybody who looked underage having sex. Kind of a relief. I gotta be honest, a huge relief.
Well,
but,
we didn't watch the whole thing, so maybe we'll just leave it at that.
I know. I could be wrong. Maybe I have to retract that if I ever sit and watch the whole thing. But so they show this orgy, and on the one hand, the version we saw in the theater, I'm like, this, yes, it's an orgy, but as you say, it feels more like a descent into hell. Mm-hmm. I guess it's erotic, but at the same time, like, I couldn't feel turned on watching this because it just looked kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone looked depressed.
Yeah. Everybody looks bored and unhappy. And I think that's intentional. I actually do think that's intentional on the part of the film that, they're stuck servicing this syphilitic old man. He's covered in sores, right? Yeah. Peter O'Toole, it's a fun makeup job. He is pale as a sheet, and he's got, big open sores on his face. And it's very gross, but it gives you that sense of, outer decay reflects his inner decay. And at the same time that they're showing this orgy and he's orchestrating this whole thing, he gives his whole speech about how I'm raising you up to rule the Romans because these people are all scum and they're debauched and they're lazy, and we were used to be a proper country, a real country who had morals and virtues, but now they're basically just want to sit all day and watch television and jerk off. So really, I want to raise you up to put some terror into these people, let them indulge themselves. It's kind of the Pleasure Island principle from Pinocchio and let them turn into asses, and then you can rule over them.
They did not watch TV.
I mean, they went to the theater. It's the same thing.
Okay.
I mean, it really is. Yeah. And they had fast food in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
They're not that different from us. There are certain things that they are very different from us about, social roles and hierarchy and stuff like that.
Bathing with oil and knives.
Actually, I've always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm very serious about this. The way the Romans would bathe, or clean themselves, I should say, groom, they would oil themselves up and then have it scraped off. And honestly, that's not that different from what soap is, because it's about a fat, and it's about using fat to kind of clean off the skin. And I also got to be honest, that's got to feel really good, right? You take like a dull knife and scrape it on your back and just kind of get rid of some blackheads and stuff. I don't know. That's got to feel like it gets your itchy spots and, I'm not saying we got to try it, but it looks pretty nice.
I'm just saying too many knives in Rome.
Okay, that's fair. They're really...
They're a little knifey. It's a little knifey back then.
Yeah, well, guess what? We're a little gunny now.
Yeah, I know.
So the knife is the Roman gun.
Yeah.
Although I got to admit, I don't think I want to scratch any part of my back with a gun.
No, depends on the gun.
I don't want to explore this. No, I'm leaving it there. I do not want to find out anymore. So... if you've seen I Claudius, it's not that dissimilar a story because it does hit all the high points of, Lives of the 12 Caesars. You have the fact that he's sleeping with his sister. You have the fact that he orchestrates orgies, especially exploiting senators' wives. You have...
Though it also has the problem of I Claudius in that all the cool characters are dead.
Yeah.
And you're left with the crazy ones. By now.
Yeah, and their take on Claudius himself is different here.
Yeah.
Where, because it's not told from his perspective, unlike that, work, he is just a weird fool in this. A weird, effeminate fool.
Yeah, I thought he was Nero at first, the way they were playing him.
Yeah, it does remind me more of how Nero is played in I Claudius. Yeah. Oh, so, it's interesting, they're not terribly interested necessarily in the politics of, whatever. at least in terms of how they cast it, the focus is not supposed to be Claudius, right?
Mm-hmm.
The focus is Caligula.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting just where it differs. Yeah, a lot of the more interesting people die off pretty quickly, and like I said, Peter O'Toole in the beginning, like you're kind of spoiled here because he's so good in this. Believe it or not. And now, granted, again, we're watching a different take than what they showed in the theater in 1980, and what we saw of his performance in that version, because we did watch up through Peter O'Toole and his death. I mean, it's a little more over the top. Which, oh wow, Peter O'Toole going over the top, weird. But no, it is. It's the version we saw, because everybody's using, like, it's a slightly different take. Everybody's a little more subdued,
yeah.
But it works. And even where he's supposedly subdued, there are some really nice, intense moments with him and walking around and giving speeches and threatening people. And it's actually, I still think it's a good performance.
Yeah, it's Peter O'Toole.
Exactly.
Doing his thing.
Exactly. And I think he's great in it.
Yeah.
So, you go from Capri, obviously Tiberius is slowly dying. Caligula is in the room with him, and they legitimately think he's dead.
Yeah.
And so he tries to pull the insignia, the ring, off of his finger. And there's a nice bit of like physical comedy of him trying to pull this thing off of Tiberius's hand. It's just not letting go. But he finally gets it off and puts it on. He's just like, this is it. I'm finally the emperor.
And he just keeps looking himself in the mirror with it like a kid.
And of course, Tiberius isn't actually dead. So he's like, oh, do I got to strangle him? Like, Caligula is not a guy who's going to, like, get his own hands dirty. Luckily, I keep calling him
Macron?
Macro.
Yeah.
Macro. See, it's funny. It's macro, but I keep thinking, like, no, a macro is just like a program on a computer to, like, as a shortcut. No. So yes, Macro.
Yeah, it is his name.
That is his name. Comes in and is just like, all right, pulls out a black lace and strangles him with it. Now, here's the thing. Tiberius is laid out on a gigantic bed full of pillows. Why would you bother to strangle this guy with lace when you could just put a pillow over his weak ass and let him die peacefully? It just seems like it's a little much. It's an entire bed of pillows. You've got pillows everywhere. Just pick one up. It's not going to be that hard. He is not going to fight back.
Look, he saw Godfather 2, and that guy didn't finish the job.
That's true. That's a fair point. So anyway, Tiberius finally dies, and they have this big funeral for him. And again, I really love the art direction in this. For the funeral, everybody's wearing black and gold. It looks great.
Yeah.
And you've got, Peter O'Toole as a corpse with his mouth still gaping open and covered in the lace.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they don't even try to hide it. And everybody's just like, all right, look, this is the world we live in now.
Yeah.
And so now he's emperor, and he's just like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. And what does he do? He becomes an insane weeb for Egypt. All he cares about is Egyptian stuff. He's just like, oh my God, we're totally like worshiping Isis. I'm going to have sex with my sister, like, in the open, and we're going to get married. We are Egyptians now. He is such a dork about Egypt. And on the one hand, yikes. On the other hand, I kind of want to go to Egypt. I kind of get it. Like, every time there's like an Egyptian like thing comes through town, I'm just like, I got to go to that. Yeah. So there's a part of me that's just like, I don't know, cringing in self-recognition. I'm just saying, when we went to the Penn Museum of Archaeology, I was just like, okay, how much are those Canopus jars?
Yeah.
And will people put my heart in them? I don't know.
What about your liver? So it was a liver, kidneys,
heart, and...
It was like everything but the brain.
Yeah, they didn't care about
brains,
the brain.
ugh.
I mean, given my brain, I agree. Toss it on the pile. Who cares? So yeah, he and Drusilla are then like able to just kind of live openly and nobody cares. But she, being smarter than him, says, you've actually got to get married. I'm married. Yeah. You got to produce an heir. We can't... Look, did it work in Egypt? Sure. We don't live in Egypt. Yes, we have a temple of Isis, but you can't just become Egyptian. And you know what? That's awfully woke of her. But she's right. She's absolutely right. So, but they do. They go to the Temple of Isis in order to select a bride. And of course, we have a big lesbian orgy. And I'm like, well, this is fine. And, this is like one of the few sex scenes where I'm just like, yeah, no, this is fine. This works. Because nobody's like kind of rapey in it. So it's,
I wonder how the Guccione version is.
No, but seriously, this is where we meet Helen Mrren, because she is a priestess in the Temple of Isis.
And she's not in there. She's just kind of walking around.
Right. She's not part of the orgy in the pool. There's a lot of orgies in pools. Was this like a 70s thing where everybody's just like, oh, we all have sex in a hot tub? I don't know. That doesn't sound very comfortable, or I don't like the idea.
It's leading up to waterbeds.
Oh my God, you're right. It is totally leading up to the waterbeds and hard bodies. Oh no. Not into the hot tubs, not into the waterbeds, not into ugh, gross. It just feels like a vector for disease. Like, so they get married, and I mean, it's him slowly descending into madness. Trying to produce an heir.
Actually, they don't get married until she has a baby.
Oh, that's a good point. That was fun. That was kind of like Henry VIII wishes he had done this.
Did you hear about that scene?
No.
That was, they actually had 3 pregnant women. That they that was them. That was an actual birth.
That was an actual birth. Okay,
Yeah.
folks, here's what happens in this scene. All of a sudden, we're in this big party, and it's just like, okay, we're at a big, Roman party, and it turns out he's invited everybody to witness the birth of what he thinks is going to be his son. I go, all right, fine. And then it's revealed, oh my God, here she is, spread eagle with a mask over her face. Now I understand why there was a mask.
Yeah.
And she's giving birth, and you're watching a baby's head being pushed out of a vagina. Now, I did not know that was real. I assumed I was looking at rubber.
Nope, that was actually real.
Holy
like there were 3 different women that
we watched a live birth in a film?
We did.
I haven't had to do that since health class.
Yeah, well.
Oh my God.
Welcome back.
No.
So shut
up, I'm still processing.
The doctors were real doctors. They had real equipment
God.
around.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What?
This movie.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. All right, well,
this is the most expensive independent movie ever made. Like, this is basically
eat your heart out, Wes Anderson.
This is basically like Manos if it had like a $100 million budget.
I mean, in
Manos
a way,
has a fate.
Yeah.
It's like they don't know what they can't do.
That's actually a good point. They don't know what they can't do. This is all coming out of when you think about the new Hollywood, right? Where not only is there a whole new appreciation for, crossing boundaries, but like money is just, falling out of the sky. As you say, this is an incredibly expensive production. It is all filmed, I guess, over in Italy. It's a bunch of Italian actors and big sets and, amazing costumes. I mean, really nice costumes, I gotta say. But this is insane. They had 3 different pregnant women.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, you gotta get the take.
I gotta say, it looked good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was looking at the real thing, because here's the thing, I'm watching this in 2024. I just assume, hey, they had really good special effects. No, in the 70s, they don't have good special effects. They have live pregnant women on screen. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, that's weird. Look, I've seen some weird films in my time, right? Films that kind of like shocked me, outraged me, grossed me out. And I've enjoyed all of those films. Like, look, Pink Flamingos I love Pink Flamingos. It's amazing. But it does Society is, nauseating, but fascinating. Yeah. The Holy Mountain, the first half hour of The Holy Mountain, I felt like I was losing my mind watching that thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I realized, this is about alchemy. And then I was like, okay, this is fine. But no, I've watched, those are all extreme films. El Topo is an extreme film.
Yeah.
This is up there.
Yeah.
I watched a live birth in a film. What overseen, like, with Malcolm McDowell as an MC?
Yeah.
That's weird.
And she's just screaming behind this mask.
She's just screaming behind a mask. Like, Jesus, yeah. Mary. Okay. Well, anyway, it turns out it's a girl.
Yeah.
Not as good.
Which it is like, you mean a boy? I just said it was a boy, and I'm Caesar, so it has to be a boy.
And they're like, no, man, I'm sorry. It is definitely a girl. Now.
What did she say? Drusilla says, like, well, the baby didn't hear that.
Now, to be fair, look, things can change, but I think back in Roman era, they were not terribly enlightened about that.
Yeah.
And also they didn't have access to testosterone. So, hey. But, yeah, fascinating. Just, I can't believe I watched that. So, yes, now he's got a nuclear family, but he's also still kind of got it going on with Drusilla. But unfortunately, Drusilla contracts a fever. He had a fever earlier in the film. You know, fevers happen a lot. Rome is built on a swamp, or was. So, like, you know, it happens, and so she ends up dying. He's had several bouts of madness by now, but this is what really sends him over the edge, is that she dies. Yeah. Now, I feel like in I Claudius, he kills her by ripping the baby out of the womb because he thinks he's Zeus. Yeah. This is a different version. Mm-hmm. So, but I think it also works dramatically, you know, that he loses it. And, you know, so now we have like the whole madness of Caligula, but that's like something that's been kind of ongoing, you know, through much of the film. You know, there was a whole thing where he is like out in the rain and, you know, stomping around naked and whatnot, you know. There's a lot of nudity in this film. Yeah. Some of it's okay, and some of it feels artistic, and some of it is just like, yeah, this still kind of falls into the exploitation realm. Yeah. And that's fine.
But most of it, like, for me, was like, you know, I see this in like every thread on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know? It's like you've seen so many naked people by now. It's like, yeah, naked people.
I mean, that's the thing. It's so funny. Like, if this was shocking in 1980, you know, we live in it's so easy to look at pornography that, as you say, all you have to do is open social media and you have pornography. Yeah. That it kind of stops meaning anything. It's not titillating after a certain point. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, there's another dick. Yeah. And there's another one. Okay. Now, I will say, because this was not the Bob Guccione version, we didn't see hardcore sex scenes. Right. And every penis we saw was not erect. And honestly, they didn't get that. I mean, every woman was also like, it was a wide shot. It's not like when we watch the Guccione version, they get right in there. I mean, again, It is penthouse. There is no. I mean, I felt like a gynecologist.
But even that soldier who gets killed, they feed him wine, and like they tie his penis, and then like they cut his guts open, they fall all over the place. Like it's. They have that scene in here, but it's like a distant shot, so you don't really see. It's not like it's not like a horror film like it is in the
Guccione version. Yeah, the Guccione version much bloodier. Yeah. And that's actually a good point. A lot of the film that we saw, it's a lot of wide shots. Yeah, a lot of distance stuff. There's not a lot of close-ups. Not that they never exist, but especially with some of the bloody stuff, it is all from far away. And
I'm sure it's the same shot. It's just that they had multiple cameras and different, but it's
different angles. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, then it's like a question of, do I need to see that guy's belly slit open and the wine pour out? No, I don't.
It's important to the plot.
Is it?
Yeah. Those guts mean something. I mean, we saw the guts at the wedding and all.
Yeah, but those belong to a sheep. Yeah. Okay, that's not as weird.
They're all sheep. Sheep, bad.
Actually, well, now you're getting into the politics of it. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so obviously this film starts with Tiberius just complaining about how the Romans are slobs and you know,
swine. And I'm a swineherd.
And he's a swineherd. Yeah. And again, it's worth seeing. Just I do feel like, you know, it reflects again how, you know, Romans felt about their own. Roman patricians felt about their own people. Yeah. They hated them. You know, I mean. All of those idiots you see on Twitter who with the statue heads or our VCs and stuff, they talk about us the same way. Yeah. You know, and it's the same stupid attitude. Like, they get it from the Romans, and these guys were full of it, right? Because what do? They, you know, they're a bunch of loose, you know, perverts who are, you know, raping people. But it's the common man who's terrible. Sure, whatever. Yeah. And obviously this is on Gore Vidal's mind, because it all leads up. Caligula is descending into madness, and he decides that in order to keep people on his side, he's going to have a war. Otherwise, the empire is going broke because he's just spending all of the money. He's just spending it on parties and whatever. And so the only way for the empire to keep having money coming in is to conquer people and take their stuff. And to be honest, this is how empires survive, right? Yeah. This is how they thrive. So in order to have stuff, you know, if you're not going to be a trading society and then not try to, you know, go for broke all the time. I guess go for broke isn't the right way to put it, but yeah. So basically,
they couldn't mine Bitcoin at the time. Or their graphics cards weren't fast enough.
So, how does Rome make money? They make money by conquering people and taking their stuff, right? And then once all that money is run out, they have to conquer more people and take more stuff, and conquer more people and take more stuff. Because at the same time, they're not willing to raise taxes. There's a whole thing in here where Caligula's like, well, we have to conquer Britain, right? Here's a new province. We conquer it, we get more money, we get more stuff. And everybody's just like, okay, but to do that, to pay for that, you're going to have to raise taxes. And he says, well, I can't do that. People are going to hate me if I raise the taxes. But what if I, force all of the senators' wives into a brothel? And then B, once I've humiliated people, I decide like they've committed treason, I can just take all their stuff. Now, in a way, it's a tax, right? But it's not a tax. It's just confiscation. But what he's doing, what Gore Vidal's script is saying is, you reach a point where you can't really go out further. You turn the policies of empire back in on itself, in on the people of the empire itself. It's what they call the Imperial Boomerang. And this film is actually kind of about that, right? Okay, we can't actually go out and invade anybody, so we're going to invade ourselves and, torture our own people and take all of their stuff in order to keep the party going.
Yeah.
You said something where, in a way, it kind of paralleled Nixon, you thought, the whole, like, we're going to go and have a war with Britain thing. And it's not entirely a real war. Well, because you were talking about, like, you watching him descend into madness, it reminded you of Nixon getting paranoid in his last days.
Oh, I was thinking more of, like, I can't do anything wrong because I'm the president type of thing.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
No. I just, that's where I got it from.
Oh, okay.
You're going on a different path.
Oh well, no, but I think we're both right. I think to some extent, Caligula is a metaphor for the Nixonian administration. Was Nixon having orgies? No. He would have. If he'd had that, maybe he would have been a happier guy, right? He would have been Bill Clinton.
That's just not who he was, though.
It's just not who he was. He was such a dork.
He's a paranoid square.
He is a paranoid square. Man, you got to read Nixon Land. It's a good book. It kind of gave me an insight on Nixon, and I was kind of like, he's still a horrible human being, but I kind of get where he's coming from in certain things, right? Because this is, he came from nothing, and
Mary Jones likes torture, agrees with Nixon.
God, no! Stop that! This is quickly becoming Mary versus Dennis. I'm just saying, read Nixon Land. It's a good book. But no, I think part of this film is about what they call the Imperial Boomerang. So he has this fake war with Britain, and the spoils of war that they bring back in this are bundles of papyrus. Because they only went about as far as probably Lake Como or something. They didn't leave Italy at all.
It's like a half hour away or something.
Yeah, they said they're not that far away. And I think this is like a half a day's march. So it's probably not Lake Como. But my point being, like, it's not that far outside of Rome. And so he brings back a whole bunch of papyrus. Now, two things. One, I remember in I Claudius, what they actually do is they go to the sea and they bring back seashells.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. So it's number one. Number two, how dumb are people that they would think papyrus was in Britain? Like, if you said, oh, we conquered Britain, you would bring back a whole bunch of tin or whatever. Like, but you wouldn't bring back, like, they don't have papyrus. It's Britain. They don't got nothing up there.
Unlike the I Claudius, where it's like, oh, he's gonzo.
Yeah.
Like, he's gone.
Yeah.
The movie kind of makes it seem like he's just trying to provoke everyone.
Yeah.
Like, he wants a fight. And he's like, why aren't they mad at me yet?
I think there's two things going on with this performance. And I think you're right. I think what I find interesting is it does swing between genuine madness and being a provocateur.
Yeah.
And I do think that the I Claudius version is different because it is more madness than provocateur, but he definitely has provocateur in there.
Yeah.
Like, both of those things, both elements are in, and I think even in the Roman historians, they would debate like how much of what Caligula was doing was madness and how much of it was just being a provocateur and basically messing with people. Because the whole thing with the horse, right? Making the horse a senator. Was he just messing with people or did he really want this to happen? And I think every version I've seen comes down on, hard to say, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this it was... I feel like in I Claudius it was provocation. In this, it felt more like, oh, he's just nuts.
Oh, I thought the other way around.
Oh, see, it depends. I don't know.
Because in this, he's actually saying to Drusilla, or not Drusilla, Cesare.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they mad at me yet? Like, or
Yeah.
like, what does it take to provoke them?
But at the same time, like it does show him being, mad at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's nuts.
He's nuts.
But I feel like he accentuates his nuttiness, kind of like Tiberius.
Right.
I mean, he's just a reflection of Tiberius in his later mad stages.
This plays out exactly the same way in that, frankly, he just takes it too far and people get sick of it. And eventually he's murdered by the Praetorian Guard. They're just like, look, he's bankrupted the country. He has committed all sorts of gross sexual violations on people. He's a monster. Like, we got to get rid of this guy. And that happens here. Obviously they stab him and make Claudius the emperor, and that's the end of the film.
They kill his wife and his daughter, and yeah.
No, do they kill his daughter in this?
Yeah, they smash her against the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and they kill his henchman guy.
Oh yeah, he's got a henchman in this that I don't remember.
Hagrid, I believe his name is.
He is a deaf mute
Yeah.
that he meets in prison. There's a whole sequence where when he goes kind of crazy after Drusilla's death, he runs out into the city. And
Henry V style.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit Henry V style, where, again, it's like you're not entirely sure how much of him is crazy and how much of him isn't in this moment, where, he made this proclamation because Drusilla died. And what is it? He outlaws bathing your children, eating any food, or having sex with your parents for a month. And everybody's just like, what the hell is he talking about? So when he's down out in the streets with the people, everybody's just like, well, we're having a party. I don't know what this guy's on about, but we are like just sex in the streets and nobody cares.
This guy loves the uneducated.
Yeah. That's a kind of an interesting sequence where, but also, it's sort of, here's where I got a little annoyed with the film. Romans had toilets.
Oh.
They weren't just crapping in the street. And certainly there weren't just naked women. Like, I'm sorry, this is where it was like very into. Now I'm looking at somebody's fetish here. This is weird. That's how
it happened, man.
It is not. They had toilets in Rome. They had plumbing. They had better sanitation.
In Roman times about 500 years ago.
Well, now that's just somebody we worked with who was very confused.
Yes.
We won't talk about that.
No.
So yeah, anyway, he dies and that's the end of the film.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting film, and I do think the politics is there that Gore was trying to get there, put into a screenplay. Although I don't think it was as strong as it could have been. That's just down to the filmmaking.
I think it's great when Peter O'Toole's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the first 40 minutes are great. Like it just works.
Yeah.
I mean it's weird and it's everything I think they were going for. And once you lose that, like it's suddenly it's just about him and everyone else is like they don't really focus on them at all. Like it's just
Yeah, even with Helen Mrren, I mean, she's there and she's good, but there's not enough of her getting to be a character.
Like they're acting well, but the
Yeah.
story just doesn't go enough into like how they feel about all this, or or like repercussions outside of what you're seeing, and it's I don't know. It just felt kind of
uneven.
Yeah.
It's a very uneven film, but
it's like Saving Private Ryan. It's great in the beginning, and then why are we still here?
Here's the thing. I've heard you make that complaint about Saving Private Ryan before. I just never thought I'd hear you complain and compare that film to Caligula. Wow.
Same thing.
I mean, is it?
like the first 40 minutes is like a Bosch painting.
Yes.
And
Very much so.
Yeah, and it's like wow.
And it works.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's filthy, but I think it's filth with a purpose.
Yeah.
Until Guccione got his hands on it, because then we watched the version, and then he's just throwing in like, and they're not very long. It's like 2 or 3 seconds of just penis and vagina sex going on or whatever, and it's just like, this isn't really necessary.
Well,
it kind of takes me out of it a little.
Guccione version, like it doesn't really flow. Like
No.
it's not like divided. It doesn't feel like sequences or anything. Like
it's disjointed.
Yeah, like the way that
and the sex makes it worse.
The version that we saw, it definitely feels like there's like 3 main sections or something.
Yeah.
You know, like the first section is you know, like him and Tiberius.
Yeah.
And then it's him and Drusilla and Caesarea.
Yeah, then the end is like him and Caesonia and the end of his reign. Yeah.
What's the Liberia guy or the bald guy?
Longinus. Longinus is kind of like his chief of staff, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Like head of finance.
Yeah, it's like kind of combination treasury secretary and chief of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very.
He looked like Michael Stipe in like kind of the late 90s when he would wear like that jewel on the head and stuff. And no, I'm dead serious.
Wow.
Look, go back and watch some of those REM videos from like, I don't know, 98 onwards.
I feel like I've seen like a character that looked like him a lot before.
Oh,
like in like
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
It feels very Game of Thrones.
Oh, those guys in the temple that they trap Khaleesi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
dude,
the people who make Game of Thrones absolutely watched Caligula.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons.
As did Leonardo DiCaprio preparing for Wolf of Wall Street.
Let me tell you something. So here's the thing. The use of sex in this film, when it's not the Guccione version, it does remind me of Wolf of Wall Street a lot. I think The Wolf of Wall Street is a great movie that I would never watch with my mother. Really. But the use of orgies in that film is, again, a sort of showing you the debauchery is so joyless in a way. And so, I don't want to say forced, but like intentionally so, you know, and what Scorsese is saying is, you know, these guys are indulging in all of their vices and they're just becoming like worse and worse people as they do that. And I do wonder, like, not necessarily Caligula, but I have a feeling like this is like reaching back to films of the 70s about things like this. Again, I haven't seen Sallow, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that was on his mind. And I do think it's, you know, so that's the thing, you can use graphic sexual content for a reason. I mean, you could also just use it because you want to watch it, but if you're making a film, and you can use this type of content to make all sorts of points. And I think it actually does work here. And when you are watching the Tinto Brass version, the Gore Vidal version, I do think that the sex serves a purpose beyond titillation. I'm not against titillation. That's totally fine. But that's not actually what it is in this version. And when Guccione gets his hands on it and is just throwing in scenes, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't feel right unless you want to be a Roman scumbag, I guess, which he does, but I don't. You know, like it just feels weird when, you know, you can see like what the story is doing versus, you know, here's two people humping.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, I don't know, man. The tonal shift doesn't work.
Of course, it's really weird to watch one right after the other because, like, we had this kind of complete, long, meandering movie in our heads, and then we watched this kind of chopped up, weird, you know, thing that
does not work.
Yeah,
yeah.
And the close-up, like the close-ups, it just felt like a Austin Powers.
Yeah.
You know? Like these constant close-ups, like, what are you doing now, boy?
It's too goofy to even be offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, everybody looks at pornography at some point. Right? But this or erotica or whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine watching this to get off. You know? But at the same time, so, you know, I remember, you know, in the preamble part of the show, I thought, you know, like, does having like unsimulated sex on screen, you know, does that distract the actors? Well, it turns out the actors themselves weren't the ones doing it. It was all stuff that was intercut. But, you know, I do wonder, like, you know, what it is to be an actor and have to perform scenes like that.
Although Maria Schneider was supposed to be Drusilla.
Yeah.
She was in Last Tango in Paris. Obviously, she's been through the ringer.
She doesn't need to go through that again, and she dropped out.
Apparently she did not like a scene with Malcolm McDowell, so...
I don't blame her. Nothing against Malcolm McDowell, but I'm just like, I don't need to go through this again.
Whereas Helen Mirren was really excited about the film.
Yeah.
Until she saw it, and then she's like...
Well, yeah, because what they were doing, if you look at the thing that we saw in the theater, I could see being excited, be like, look, it's bold, but it does feel like a film, and it does feel like an attempt at some sort of art, right?
Yeah.
The Guccione version doesn't feel like that. It looks cheap. It's weird because, granted, what we saw was cleaned up. Like we said, there was, computer graphics and all sorts of, work put onto it. So that it automatically looks better. And the sound is not as obviously dubbed over as it is in the Guccione version. When we're watching the Guccione version, like it looked like an Italian movie from 1965 with cheap English dubbing over top of it. If you took the sex out, this could have been run on MST3K. That's what it looked like. It looked like a lot of movies I'd seen on MST3K. It looked cheap and it looked like a joke.
Yeah.
And the fact that a movie coming out in 1980 looked like 1965, look, man, that doesn't work for the black hole, and it does not work here.
You mean like a Hercules movie or something?
Yes, like a Hercules movie. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's exactly what this looked like. It looked and sounded like a Hercules movie.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work in the 80s.
Hercules conquers the concubines.
I would watch that. Yeah, I would watch that. I mean, I kind of did. So, yeah. Oh, one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just curious about something. What do you think about something?
All right.
Hair. All of the women had pubic hair. They also had armpit hair.
Yeah.
Now, my question for you is this meant to be authentic to the ancient Romans or just authentic to the 1970s?
Yeah, 70s.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I'm just saying, I'm watching, I'm just like, well, yeah, of course everybody would be hairy. Like, no, I can't imagine a woman taking a straight razor to anything in ancient Rome, much less 1970s.
Right.
Terrifying prospect. I just, yikes. I'm sure people did it. So, okay, final verdict on this film. Should people watch it?
Nah.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. You could skip it. It's not.
Well, look, I mean,
essential viewing.
You could skip just about anything if you want. Look, I don't think it's as bad as its reputation, the version that we saw. I think the Guccione version, yeah, you don't want to watch that. That's trash.
It's just long and meandering.
It is long, it is meandering, but I don't know. If you're like a dork for ancient Rome and, excess.
Then watch I Claudius.
Yeah, that's true.
Because this like, I just, I mean, there's stuff that stays with you, like the head lawnmower certainly stays with you.
Yeah, we didn't talk much about that, but man, that rocked.
Yeah, it's like this giant wall that's moving. It has like this weird like blade chopping thing, and there's these heads. Like, I mean, people's head like are buried up to their necks, and
it's just like lawnmowering their heads off. It's it's a bit much.
While people are throwing, at first you just see people like buried up to their necks, and people throwing food at them, and then suddenly you see this weird lawnmower thing.
Yeah.
And
I'm not saying that's good, but
it's memorable. I don't know. It was interesting, but it's really long.
So that was Caligula, the ultimate cut, mixed with the original Caligula, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Starring Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mrren, Teresa and Savoy, Peter O'Toole, John Gielgud, John Steiner, Guido Manarri, Paolo Bonicelli. Who else was in this? A bunch of Italian actors that I'm sure most of my listeners have not heard of, but that's okay. Written by Gore Vidal, directed by Tinto Brass, unless you're talking about the version that was produced by Bob Guccione, and then it's just kind of like, yeah, they did definitely do those things, but their names got taken off. So.
You know what? If I hadn't seen I Claudius, this might be worth seeing.
Yeah, that's fair.
The thing is, it just suffers when you compare it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can follow us on social media. I promise we will go back to normal movies next time.
Where could we go from here? Star 80?
Oh, God. Yikes. Oh, let's just kill my soul now. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, you can follow us on social media. We're Mary Movies on all of your major platforms, except for Tumblr, where it is Mary versus the Movies. I don't know why. But yes, we are on Instagram, X/Twitter, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Threads, you name it. We are there. We are on TikTok. We have a couple of different types of videos that we do on TikTok and or Instagram Reels now. Some of them are Dennis's cartoons, and some of them are a puppet that we got named Reg. And Reg has been introducing some of our movies, and it's just been kind of fun playing with Reggie. Anyway, yeah. So we're on all your major platforms, except for Google, because I can't figure out how to get our show onto YouTube yet. I'm working on it. Whatever. But otherwise, you can get our podcatcher. Wait, no. You can get our RSS feed and put it into whatever your podcatcher of choice is, and we should be able to show up because we use Libsyn as our server, and that's kind of a universal thing. Anyway, we have a Patreon where you can help support the show because it costs money to go to see Caligula. I'm sorry that you supported this. I really am. No, in all seriousness, yeah, it costs money to make the show. You will notice we don't have ads. We don't have, we're not on anybody's network. This is just Dennis and me making the show on our own. We have to pay for a server. We have to pay for a Zoom account. We have all kinds of costs that, we have to pay to go see the movies. So look, we can pay for all that ourselves if we want to. That obviously we will do that. But if you want to help support the show, if you want to help us make this, we really appreciate it. You can sign up to patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. Don't use the Apple Patreon app though to sign up for anything because apparently they're going to start taking a huge cut of things, like 30%. I mean, it's really gross.
Jeez.
So I know, right? What the hell? So sign up through the web browser and you will circumvent that nonsense. Yeah, because seriously, they're taking this cut on what do they don't do anything but let people download an app. Whatever. So patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. Now, if you sign up for the Patreon to support us, then you get access to a whole other show, Hollywood Avalon, where we watch Arthurian movies and or TV shows. We've watched anything from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade to The Fisher King to 2006 King Arthur, which sucks. We're going to cover all sorts of stuff. Like I said, we're doing TV shows. We'll do cartoons. We did a Bugs Bunny cartoons. If you're into Arthurian movies, Arthurian lore,
World War II propaganda films.
World War II propaganda films. That's right. I forgot about King Arthur with a Gentleman. That was actually kind of a fun movie.
That was fun.
Different versions of Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. If you're interested in that, sign up for our Patreon. All right. After all that, I can't think of anything else.
Star 80.
No. No, you know what I think we might do?
What?
All right. So I don't know when this is coming out, whether we have to take a week off or not. Maybe not. Hopefully not. But regardless, the next movie I want to watch for the show, Mazes and Monsters.
Oh, that's right. You were talking about that.
Yeah. The anti-D&D propaganda film starring Tom Hanks in 1981?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that. Apparently it's readily available online too. So, next episode will be Mazes and Monsters.
All right.
Yeah, what is the opposite of a Roman orgy of sex, of people getting their getting off with each other? It's a bunch of teenagers playing D&D.
I don't know, Satan.
All right. Well, until next time.
Come, my fishes.